Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Pitch. Super excited to be back for 2024. This is actually your first one this year, which is exciting. Happy to have Tony with us here today. Tony is working on a great business. My name is Tim Cooley. I am the author of the Pitch Deck book. I really love helping people present their businesses better. This is totally free, so if you're out there wanting help, just apply. Would love to work with more people. So Tony, go ahead, share your screen and then pitch us.
Okay, well, thanks for that introduction. We're here to talk about the gesture today. So, using smartphones are ubiquitous and indispensable. We use them. We interact with that touchscreen literally thousands of times per day. But this is not always easy or convenient. Next slide.
Oh, you can change it.
I can change it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, there we go. So I'm an avid outdoorsman. I like spending time outdoors. I always have. There's nothing more fun than bounding through a sea of endless powder like we see here. And yet, interacting with a touchscreen during these circumstances can be dangerous if you should be focusing on something else, and it could be frustrating and disruptive. And this is the use case that we sought after to solve, is when you're in these circumstances, we want to make the connection to the smartphone seamless and easy. And that's what we set out to do. We set out with a bunch of requirements that we'll discuss here briefly. And I'm happy to say that after countless revisions and capstone projects and all kinds of code revisions and so forth, they were just about there. Introducing the Gesture, the world's first AI-powered wearable remote control for your smartphone and attached accessories, explicitly designed for the outdoor enthusiast. So what do we mean by the outdoor enthusiast? Well, obviously we're talking about somebody who spends time outdoors and is active in those activities. Here's a set of requirements that we set out to solve, to meet during the design process. And I'm happy to say that we've met all of these. This was no mean feat because the existing technologies for gesture control did not meet all of these requirements. None of them met it. So we had to go out and invent our own methodology. We did that, and we patented the technology. So how do we use it? So the system consists of 5 separate elements. There's a wearable element, there's a mounting point, there's a charging case, an actuator ring, and the mobile app. So what you do is use the mobile app to configure which gesture is associated with which smartphone function using the app. Okay, it's not going forth on the. Okay, and then you take the ring out of the charging case and put it on your dominant hand, any finger in your dominant hand. Take the wearable module out of the charging case and put it snap it into the mounting accessory. We have 2 of them at launch. One of them's for the wrist and one of them's for the handlebars of your mountain bike, and that seems to be adequate. And then you go off and do your own activity. Go put in the earbuds you already own and the gloves you already own, and you go do your thing. So when you're out doing your thing, there's none of this fumbling around with tiny buttons to interact with your phone. None of this taking off your gloves and your goggles to read the touch screen, exposing your smartphone to the hazards of the day, and so on and so forth. It's just intuitive swipes and taps of your dominant hand over the wearable unit that implements the function that you've programmed for it on the phone previously. So to date, we've demonstrated functionalities such as push to talk, which is a walkie-talkie like functionality. So just a swipe will get you do a push to talk session with somebody else that's on the ski slopes or on the mountain bike trails that you want to communicate with. Media control, of course, with a couple of extra really nice things like changing a playlist, playing a favorite song, and that sort of thing that's not available with the tiny buttons that you get on your earbuds. In-context call control, GoPro control, 360 degree camera control, and even simple things like announcing the time of day. things that are really hard to access when you're out doing these things. Okay, it's not advancing. Okay.
Try hitting escape. There it goes.
There we go. Oh, that's what I was trying to do before. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
Throw this. Okay. So the system is trained. The AI model in the wearable is trained in the traditional way, taking a bunch of training data that's automated, putting it through an AI framework such as Colab or something like that, generating the model conversion, the model file, and then using a model converter to produce an object file that can be called from a microcontroller in the wearable. In the wearable, as the actuator ring is precessed over the top of the wearable, there's a bunch of magnetic sensors that are in the wearable, and all that raw data is sent to the AI model, where it's transmitted into a code that's sent to the phone that enacts the function. So that's technically how it works. We've also had a proximity detection feature within it using ultra-wideband technology. This is for collision warnings when you're in glade skiing and dense trees, or on a single track or multi-use mountain biking trail where a lot of other folks are there that can warn you of proximity of other folks, so you don't crash into each other and know if somebody's behind you trying to pass. We also intend on making the skipper, what we call a skipper accessory, which is something that fits on your ski and allows you to find your ski under deep snow. This is a real problem here in Utah. If you're a skier, you know that. As I mentioned before, the gesture recognition methodology is patented. That was issued in December of 2018. Competition-wise, none of the other competitors really taken a holistic view of this problem as we have. They are either only support one sport. For example, the Outdoor Tech chips is only useful for snowboarding helmets. And that's the only place you can use it and so forth. Speech recognition is good and it's getting better, but it doesn't work very well when you're away from the cloud, strong cloud connection. And when you introduce things like wind noise and stuff like that, it doesn't work very well. And nobody wants to talk to their phone while they're around other people. We make money by selling separately packaged hardware modules and freemium app upgrades, a ring replacement, and we'll have different colors and stuff for that, and potentially rentals for if somebody's coming to the ski slopes from out of town and on a powder day, but they don't want to buy it, but they don't want to lose their ski and ruin their vacation either. So we would be able to rent these things at ski resorts. We're looking at a 40 to 60% profit margin for the skipper and the jester. These numbers should improve as we get to higher volumes. The financials, the assumptions are there listed on the left-hand side. For a 350K seed round, we're looking at a 5-year ROI of about 10x. That gives us a 6-month runway and sales commencing at about month 5. Break even in month 19, and that comes down to a valuation of about $4 million. The verticals we have not considered for this forecast or for this P&L are motorcycles, which is an obvious extension of the use case. We've got in a lot of interviews that we've done with potential customers, the services are hot after this device as well, especially construction workers who wear a lot of protective gear, but they need to communicate with each other on the site in high noise environments and all the time during the day. So construction workers seem to be ready for this as well. And we have a military angle that we're pursuing as well. Our team is diversified. They all have some domain experience in the outdoor industry. I have a master's degree in electrical engineering from the University of Utah and 30 years plus of product development experience. Todd is our fractional CFO, and Bryce is a co-founder, also a mechanical engineer and an entrepreneur himself. Kendall Goodman is our first brand ambassador. He's skiing right this year. He's competing on the World Freeride Tour. He's actually he's ranked number 14th out of 22 competitors, and of the 4 Americans, he is leading the pack. So he's amazing. And then down below there are strategic industry associations to help us with the fulfillment of the technology. And that's the presentation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So I love to start these things on things that I really liked. One, I like the cleanliness of most of the slides. One of them I think we can make a little bit cleaner, but overall I think it was a really good job. The product demonstration part with I'm not sure if it was an animated GIF or whatever, was done really, really well. I like to tell people, don't use video. If you need to, use animated GIFs because they take up way less space and they always work. So great job with that. With that, there's lots of areas I think that I can help with this from a communication point of view. So bear with me, and we're going to just kind of click back through and go from the beginning to the end. So go all the way back to the beginning. Oh, you closed it.
Oh, did I? I was just clicking through the. Okay, let's see. Present slides. Computer. Oh shoot! I want to upload the file.
Oh, just do the screen share again. Share screen.
Oh, gotcha. Oh boy, let's see here. It's not showing my screen. It's not showing the presentation for some reason.
Do you need to open it again?
Well, I thought I did.
There we go.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay. So go back to start.
Here. This is perfect. Okay.
Good.
So this beginning slide is really kind of that title slide, like in any presentation. I didn't know if this was just gesture, I think that's what it's called, or AST, and you never mentioned the AST, whatever, how these two things are connected.
I see.
So what I would do is I would either show the picture of the product and the name of it, and then maybe a little tagline. But this should be a very simple title slide that has no content on it whatsoever.
Oh, okay.
And again, because you're going to move to the next thing, whatever that next thing is going to be.
Gotcha.
Okay. So go to your next slide.
Yeah.
Okay. If you were to mail this to me and I was to get this, I have no context on what this means getting started. So what I would do here is I would bring out your background and as it relates to this product that we're like, what I like to see when people says like, I've been an electrical engineer, I've built outdoor products. One of the big things is that we're about to learn more about is like, I just really struggled being able to use my phone. Let me tell you the things that I've learned, right, in this industry, or whatever that we're going to get to. But use your background to lead into the problem statements that you're about to tell me.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Gotcha.
So with that being said, I don't know, even from the entire presentation, what problems are being solved until if you go to your competition slide.
Okay.
So let's take a quick look at that guy. Until about here, right? If I look at each one of these like categories, these are relatively the problems that you guys set out to solve.
Yes.
Because these other products couldn't do them, right?
Right.
And so I think it's better to start with, if you're looking to do gesture control, again, background, to do this type of activity, the current products can't do this. They can't do this. They can't do this. That sets us up for where we're about to go.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Should we eliminate this slide, you think, then?
No. This slide's super important.
Oh, okay.
Because we're gonna repeat it later, but you're kind of you're just having to set the stage because I don't even know what you're talking about yet.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah, I understand. Okay.
All right. So go back to your slides. Go back in some of them. Let's go to this slide here. Yep.
This one?
I would delete this slide. I mean, I would change this slide up. I would move this slide to either your traction slides or whatever.
Okay.
But in the way that this came out, like it was just a bunch of random pictures on the page.
Right.
So then what I would do is I would kind of reorganize the next two slides.
Okay.
You don't need the animated GIF here, to be honest, but it was kind of cool.
Okay.
What you want to do is I want to see how the product works in addressing, if you go to number 5.
Gotcha.
All of these things.
These things. Okay.
Because remember, the other products couldn't do them. Our product can do all these things, and you can lay this out a little bit differently. Like you can say, like, look, you can, use your hands without touching the two things. You can put it in your pocket. You can do a bunch of stuff. You could turn that list into more of a graphical representation of everything.
Okay.
Pedestrian fatalities, and this thing is not related to the feature sets. They're two completely separate concepts.
Well, it's a little bit tangential. I mean, here's a guy who's, focusing on a smartphone walking across the street.
Right.
But
you're solving a problem for the outdoor industry in this presentation.
That's true.
Right. So what I would say is stick with what was that?
That's a good point. Can be confusing.
Yeah. Well, and also you should go problem and then solution and keep it that way. And in this case, you went kind of like problem-ish. Then you said a little bit of solution, and then you went back to some more about the problem. So keep all the problem elements in the front or like all together, and then keep all the solution elements together because it'll keep the story moving forward.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. So next is, okay, this is the animated GIF part. Again, if these are all the different things that it's doing, then this is a fine slide, but you don't need the 3, 4, and 2 to pop out. You can just show them and keep them all on the screen at one time.
Okay.
Like what we had an issue with the clicking's not working. So like I said, I don't really love, they're called animations.
Right.
So I would remove them and I would just put them along the slide. It's easier to read, that kind of stuff, or make sure you're doing it the right way.
Gotcha.
Okay. Number 7, go to the next slide. You don't need this slide. This is a great appendix slide. If someone's like, hey, how does the actual function work? Let me show you. So you don't need to go through this in this presentation.
Gotcha.
All right.
Dang it.
No.
This is the stuff I like to talk about.
Yeah, that's why we do this. I love this stuff. All right. Number 8. Go to number 8.
Gotcha.
Okay, again, so now we're talking about, we're still in more solution mode. So figure out how to keep, like, reorganize. You don't need all these in there, by the way. You only need the ones that are really, really important to the product itself. I know you would argue, like, yeah, they're all important. Maybe, maybe not.
Right.
One thing I want to be very cautious of is in this one, you start introducing the concept of the skeeper.
Yes.
Either you're raising money to build the first product or the second product. You can do both, but it gets a little bit confusing because you have to present those two as two different opportunities.
Right.
One is hyper focused on skiers, making sure they want to they don't want to lose their skis. That's a whole business in its own. Versus this other active wear AI thing that you can, check your phone while you're hiking, right? Those are two completely different they're similar business models, but messaging is just two different messaging. Okay. Just
so what would you suggest, just keeping the skeeper out of it completely?
For now, I might, but I'll tell you where you can add it later. Again, I don't know how far along that's been in development, but I'll show you where you can add it later.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, so we're going to pause for a second. Let's go down 2 slides to number 11. Okay, I think it's really important after you show your solution to jump into the numbers.
Okay.
If I was selling you a vacuum and we made it 7 minutes in, you would be like, Tim, how much does it cost? Like you're like waiting for that thing.
Right.
So what I would do is make the numbers themselves just bigger, especially because if we're going to be more focused on the gesture side of things.
Yeah.
You could just pull that up all by itself. You could put the picture back here. And you don't need the chart itself to show the cogs. You could just write those numbers.
Okay.
And then you could also write on here something like cogs get better, when we hit scale or something like that, right? Like you can just, it just doesn't have to be that fancy. It can be very simple.
Okay.
All right. Go to slide number 12. So because we're talking about numbers, we should stick to talking about numbers for a little while.
Okay.
What you want to do here is I would remove everything else except for that chart.
Oh.
And then I would add like a KPI chart on the bottom of this because I don't know what $800,000 looks like. So you need to tell me that is, cumulatively, I think I did the math. It's a little over 5,000 units sold.
Right.
So that's what I want to see is like add some KPIs here so that I can actually see the unit numbers sold. If you're doing accessories, like add those elements here so I can get a better idea.
Okay.
I've never seen a cumulative net income. Maybe I have, but it could work. If you are doing the skeeper part, this is where you could introduce this.
Okay.
Right? You could introduce like in year 2, we're going to potentially launch a new product, or the end of year 3. And like you could say, hey, this is going to come online, and here's what the revenue of the next product could look like. But right now we're hyper focused on this one product. That's how I would state that. If you want to put it in the financials, you just don't want to confuse people.
So none of that stuff, the assumptions, the runway and all that.
We're going to move it.
Oh, we're going to move it. Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
So for this one, we're just talking about what the future could look like. I would also do no less than 3 years. So 3 to 5 years is pretty normal. So I would do no less than 3, even though it's all guessing.
Gotcha. Okay.
All right. Okay. So now that we're talking about this, now we're going to go into like the markets themselves that you're actually selling into, which in this case is this right side. This is your vertical. So I would pull that out, make it its own slide, and then start putting real numbers associated to those people. And keep in mind, you want the total number of people who, let's say ski. But the number of people who were like in this world of buying high tech, whatever, how many people buy walkie-talkies for skiing alone, right? It's a similar market to that. So that's what you want to be able to communicate to.
Well, is that the SOM there in the upper right-hand corner? So that's what those numbers are intended to represent, is the SOM.
It could be. If that's the way you have it, then that's great. I don't know what. So 1.7 million people. Is that all the skiers?
That's skiers and snowboarders. Yeah. Well, alpine sports in general.
All right. So then the SOM would be the subsegment of those who will buy this product.
No, that is the SOM.
How many?
The 1.73 million skiers, snowboarders, and alpine sports. That's that segment of the pie chart represented.
How many of them? How many total skiers in the whole wide world are there in the U.S.?
Yes, so like 11 or in the world. This is all U.S. In the U.S., there's about 11 million.
Okay, so I would say, hey, there's 11 million. We think that there's a real addressable market of 1.7 million. So I would show the top number for the TAM, and then I would show that other one.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and again, you would classify that these are the people who make over $100,000 a year. Like they fit our demographic. And then same thing. So then you're going to say, this is where we're starting. But as we figure out this product launch, there's a real opportunity to expand into bicycles, which a lot of people who ski bike. And then there's another opportunity for motocross. And you could show each one of those opportunities.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now we would go back to that competition slide. So number 10.
Okay.
So this is a good slide. Other than graphically, I would, try and maybe look for somebody on Fiverr to just update the graphics. But it's functionally, it's fine. You don't really need to do anything. But it just looks different from everything else.
Yeah, it does.
Okay, so now from here, now we've just taken care of the business side of it. Now we want to go into the traction side of it, right? Like this is where you guys get to shine, as we are true business people. And so one is this element of slide number 9, which is the patent itself. So that's great. The other one that you want to bring in is like the prototype. You could say, look, we're here on the level of prototype. We've already got, 8 people using it, whatever the thing. I think you're wearing it, if I saw correctly.
I am.
Yeah. So I would even pull that out. Like, look, it exists. Like that is a really nice thing to do in this moment. And then you can also, instead of putting that the Olympic guy or whatever, I would put him here. Like we've already got a person who is testing it in the real world. They're going to the Olympics. Like we already have a sponsor. Those are really nice traction elements to show like this company's doing something. And if you also have sales, I would mention that, but you may be pre-revenue.
Yeah, we're actually taking pre-orders now because we don't have a product yet. This is all 3D printed hardware and stuff.
Yeah, I would put that in there. I would say, look, it's all 3D printed. We know it's going to work, and we are in that pre-sales or whatever, the crowdfunding.
Yeah, we're taking $5 commitments for a 40% discount on the Kickstarter campaign. So
cool. Yeah. So again, anything you've done today that shows like we've already got 100 pre-sales, right? Those kinds of things are really important right now.
Gotcha.
All right.
Okay.
So go down. I'm looking for a slide that I think I saw. Go down one more. Oh, go up. Okay. So where you're going. So this is the thing that's kind of missing, but kind of here is what's the raise for? Like, what am I getting with, I think you're raising 350. Like, what are you guys plan to accomplish? So those are called the milestones.
Okay.
So real simple timeline, and I always like to say with funding, we are going to hit these next 5 milestones over the next year and a half.
Gotcha.
Okay. Then I would go into your team slide, which is slide number 13.
Yeah.
And with this one, I would just remove a lot of the text. There's a lot happening here that you don't really need. But yeah, I would just pull out some things, make the pictures bigger. You have this huge group of people here on the right that's in the green. I can't even read it. So just clean this up. You really only need to show the C-suite. And if you have any investors that you think are worth noting, I would put them on here as well, or advisors.
Okay.
But
yeah, that's kind of
fine. I'm just saying it's hard to read. There's just a lot going on.
Yeah, the writing on the right, those are all the advisors. But
okay. Yeah. So that's fine. You can actually just remove them, or you can you decide. But they're not as important as you think, unless it's like, Kevin Hart is one of our investors, right? Like that.
Right. Okay, that sounds like keeping that in the appendix, sort of thing.
Yeah, you could do that too. Like, hey, because it comes up that people are like, hey, who else is involved? And then you're like, oh, let me show you all the people.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay.
And then go back up to number 12. And so now what I would do is I would turn the bottom information down here into your final slide. So if you go down to, and then this is like one of my favorite things to say, is ask me one question about your company from this slide. You can't do it.
Okay.
Right. So what I would do is end on the ask slide. So we're looking here. Remind me what you're doing. So gesture. We're an AI whatever. Here's an image of the product. We're looking for 350. Here's the terms of the deal. Here's the things that we plan to accomplish. Here's how we plan to use the money. And then I would keep your email and phone number and all that stuff on here, on your ask slide. And then I would leave that as your final. And the reason for that is it gets the most amount of airtime. So if you're in a live presentation or even virtually, this slide could sit there for 10 minutes.
True. It just sits there. Yeah. I get you. Okay.
Whereas thank you, then everyone's like, cool. Unless they took really good notes. They're like, well, I guess I could call the guy, but.
Very interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. I like that.
That's my, if I could change the world, that's my one thing I could change.
Yeah. I like that one. Yeah.
Okay.
It makes a lot of sense.
Cool. Any questions for me?
Oh, I'm sure I'll have some.
Well, feel free to email me.
once I get into this.
Yeah.
But I really appreciate your help. This is good stuff.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks again for being here. And to those who are watching, I really love doing this. Obviously, this is something fun for me. I wish more people had more knowledge of what people are looking for. And you can see there's sometimes things are just missed. And so again, thanks so much for presenting. This was awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the one thing that I struggle with, I mean, all these, meetups and incubators, and they all have their own take on the pitch deck. Right?
That's the problem.
And it's confusing. From somebody in my perspective that doesn't really have an investor perspective, right?
Right.
So, but this is very helpful. I think, especially that last one, I think a lot of this stuff makes a lot of sense.
And you have all the materials. I think that's one of the hard things that people don't realize is when I wrote the book because of this, because I kept seeing so many different variations, and someone would leave off like that KPI element, right? Like you're like, oh, it makes total sense why it should be there, but this template didn't even want it, Or like the ask slide. It's like I try to dive into why somebody would put it there versus just the what. And so, anyways, I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, no, very helpful.
Cool.
Can I get a copy of your book?
Yeah, sure. It's on Amazon.
Okay.
Yep. I'll send you a link.
I'm sorry, what's it called again?
The pitch deck book.
The pitch deck book. Okay, well, it's easier to remember.
Yep.
Okay, thanks,
awesome.
man.
Well, thanks, Tony. This was awesome.
Really appreciate it.
Okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.